By now, most of you are probably aware that the Democratic caucus in Iowa was an unmitigated disaster, with everyone declaring victory, no one having any idea what was going on. And as of the recording of this segment, we still don't have the results. We're expected to get them later today, so maybe by the time you watch this, you'll know what happened. But we saw basically everybody declaring victory and then turn on each other, accusing Pete Buttigieg of being a cheater or a spy, Joe Biden and the establishment of tanking polls or hiding them so that no one can see Bernie was in the lead. The Democrats are too busy fighting each other and no one has any idea what's really happening. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, there was a GOP caucus and he steamrolled right through it. Of course he did. But we are learning some very important details from the Iowa caucus, regardless of whether or not we know who won. You see, the Democrats were betting on two things to defeat Donald Trump in November. First, record voter turnout. Surprise, surprise, there was none. It was actually down. Bad news for Democrats. The other was the youth vote. And it turns out first-time voters are actually down as well, meaning the youth vote probably didn't turn out either. All of this is extremely bad when you combine it with Gallup's latest poll as of today. Donald Trump's approval rating is the highest it's ever been based on their tracking. Now, I don't like to use individual polls, but they show, based on their data, Trump is 4 points higher than Obama was at the same time period, and Obama easily won. Moody's analytics in October said, if there was low voter turnout, Trump would have a record victory, nearly 400 electoral votes. And there's still a lot to be seen. This is just the first caucus, and it was a disaster. But I'll tell you this, with low voter turnout, with Trump's, record approval rating, I'd have to imagine people are looking at what the Democrats have to offer, complete and unmitigated failure, next to people cheering for the economy and supporting Trump, and realizing even the people who went to vote yesterday and went and voted for the Democrats are probably saying maybe it was a bad idea. I think not only did we see low enthusiasm for the Democrats, but they actually hurt their case by screwing everything up. Now on the screen, I have this story from McClatchy's DC, February 3rd at 5 a.m. Quote, the largest turnout we've ever had, Iowa to kick off Trump-fueled voter surge in 2020. And boy, was that story wrong. But what was really bad about it was the headline. I saw that quote and I was confused. Wait a minute. The AP and NBC said voter turnout was bad. Why are they saying the largest turnout we've ever had? The full quote, which was omitted, is we're preparing for the largest voter turnout we've ever had. Unfortunately, it didn't come. The story is actually making a prediction, but trying to frame it as though something successful happened. It didn't. So let's take a look at the real information, which is serious, serious bad news for Democrats. And boy, am I not exaggerating. And epic news for Donald Trump. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do, share this video. Everybody's got their bubble, their echo chamber. And if you share this video, maybe, just maybe some of them might see some information they didn't consider before. I know most people don't want to do it, so whatever. At the very least, sharing the video really does help support the channel and allow me to grow as YouTube's trying to suppress content like this. The first thing I want to do is show you the real story as I scroll down. McClatchy's actually says, Monday's Iowa caucuses are expected to draw near record Democratic turnout, reaching or even surpassing the historic number set in 2008 amid a clash between Obama and Hillary Clinton. The participation surge is expected to last well beyond Iowa, deep into the rest of 2020 Democratic primary and the November general election, where polls already show a record amount of voter interest. Well, the polls were wrong. They all said Joe Biden was the front runner, and I know we don't have the full data set as of the recording of this video, but he's in 5th place in Iowa. 5th. Wow. Who saw that coming? I mean, I kind of did. I guess a lot of people did. I've been saying it over and over again. Joe Biden's not really running. He's not raising that much money. I mean, at least relative to Bernie. And anybody who's seriously paying attention would not vote for this guy. He doesn't know where he is. He can't talk. We get it. So it turns out the polls were wrong. And guess what? These polls were wrong too. Record voter interest, they say. Let's do this. The largest voter turnout. Here's the real quote they didn't want to show you. What we've been preparing for all along is the largest turnout we've ever had, said Troy Price, chairman of the Iowa Democratic Party. Now, it's always hard to predict caucus turnout, but for us, we've been focused on being more prepared than we were in 2008. Well, we got the data from the AP. Iowa caucus turnout on pace to match 2016. Oh, man, that is bad. Boy, were the polls wrong. The polls were wrong in 2016 about Trump. The polls were wrong about Hillary. And the polls seem to still be wrong. So maybe when I say Trump's, approval rating is higher than it's ever been, maybe it doesn't matter because they've been wrong the whole time. But hold on. I started thinking about that and I thought, if they're using the same standard for Trump and Obama, then it's aligned at least, right? They're asking similar people with similar methodology, I assume. So that probably makes more sense so long as the poll is conducted by Gallup. But I can't tell you because the polls seem to be totally out of sync with the rest of the country. The AP, they say it's on par with 2016. Let's read a little bit. Turnout for Monday's Iowa caucus was on pace to match 2016 levels based on early data, a state party official said, even as some sites reported long lines and a record number of people participating as Democrats began choosing a nominee to take on President Donald Trump. It was too soon to tell what final turnout numbers will be amid delays in reporting results, but Iowa Democratic Party Communications Director Mandy McClure said early indications were turnout was on pace to match 2016 when about 170,000 people participated. The high water mark for the contest was the 2008 Iowa Democratic caucuses when nearly 240,000 participated and Barack Obama defeated Hillary Clinton, John Edwards, and other candidates. They thought it was going to be bigger than that. In fact, it was 30 or so percent less. That is seriously brutal. I'm probably more than that. But here's why it matters. Take a look at this story from 2016, November 10th, the Washington Post. Why did Trump win? In part, because voter turnout plunged. Whoa, wait a minute. If you're saying voter turnout was bad in 2016 and Trump won, and they need record voter turnout to defeat Trump now, but it's the same as it was in 2016, which was bad, that's seriously bad news for Democrats. It seems like early indicators. So let me stop. Okay, I got to say this. The data hasn't come in yet. I know I'm kind of jumping the gun, but there's nothing I can really do until the Democrats figure out what's going on with this serious disaster. But as they stated, early indicators show it's going to be like 2016 when Donald Trump won. Now, that in and of itself is another early indicator that voter turnout is not going to surpass 2008, is not going to break record levels like they thought. So in the end, with the economy, with impeachment bolstering Trump's base, with his approval rating up, I don't think there's a case to state Trump would lose re-election. But hey, I always reserve judgment because, you know what's going to happen. The data's going to come out and everything I say will be wrong. So it is what it is. Let me just tell you, I'm reading the news stories as they've come out so far. And by the time you watch this, it will have been a few hours. They're going to be releasing the results, my understanding, at least some of them, about an hour after this video goes public. So, we'll see what happens and I'll have updates. But I still have more bad news for the Democrats. Check this out. From NBC News. Iowa caucuses turnout. Entrance poll shows dip in first timers. This year's level of new participants is well shy of that in 2008, when a whopping 57% of Democrats said they'd had never caucused before. First of all, the whole caucus process is absolutely insane. Wait till I show you what they did to determine who gets to be the nominee. They're like flipping coins, playing rock, paper, scissors, or whatever. It is nuts. But hold on. Now I'm gonna make an assumption here, but they were bragging about how when Trump got elected, there were many 17-year-olds who couldn't vote who are now of age. There were many people who are younger than that who are now old enough to vote. They said they're going to come out in droves and vote this president out. Perhaps, maybe in the general, maybe no one cares about the primary. I don't know. But if first timers are down, not just on pace with 2016, actually down, well, wouldn't that stand to reason the youth vote didn't come out to participate in the democratic process? Look, man, I've gone over this over and over again over the past several days about the blank or bust voters. And Yang or bust is huge. 42% of his base saying they're not going to support the candidate. But basically everyone except for Elizabeth Warren has a percentage of voters who think Donald Trump is the second best option or they just won't vote. I don't know what's going on, but I think it's hilarious how they've been saying over and over again that the youth is all fired up. And they're kind of not. Now, I get it. I'm making an assumption. Let's read a little bit of the story from NBC. They say, Iowa's presidential caucuses were expected to draw record turnout Monday, but early data from the NBC entrance poll show a big dip in participants attending a Democratic caucus for the first time. The entrance poll showed just about a third of voters caucusing this year are first-timers, a lower level than 2016, when first-timers made up 44% of the Hawkeye State's Democratic caucus goers. Now, okay, maybe the people who voted in 2016 came back out. It's their second caucus. Sure. They say. And this year's level of new participants is well shy of that in 2008, when a whopping 57% of Democrats said they had never caucused before. In a statement addressing a delay in results, the Iowa Democratic Party said that early data indicate turnout could eventually match that of 2016. What we know right now is that around 25% of precincts have reported, and early data indicates turnout is on pace for 2016, IDP Communications Director Mandy McClure said. So we did cover that. But this adds the fact that first-timers are down. Now, if it's true that people in 2016 who were first-timers came back to vote, then it stands to reason the number would go down, right? But if young voters were coming out for the first time when they couldn't caucus last time, wouldn't it stand to reason the number would stay the same or go up? In my opinion, it looks like even the youth vote isn't there. But now I'm going to show you the real nail in the coffin for the DNC establishment. From the Wall Street Journal. This is extremely preliminary data, everything I've been talking about. So take it all with a grain of salt. Things have changed, may have changed by the time you watch this. They probably will. You can see only certain precincts are actually reporting, but Joe Biden's in 5th place with just the Sioux City area. Bernie Sanders is more than double Joe Biden. Even Elizabeth Warren, surprisingly, Klobuchar is 0.7% above Joe Biden. You know, they kept trying to make Klobuchar happen. And I kept saying, stop trying to make Klobuchar happen. Klobuchar's not going to happen. And she beat Joe Biden. Okay, hold on. She didn't beat him, but as of right now, with a very tiny data set, it looks like she's beating him. Perhaps more precincts will start reporting, and we'll see that Biden actually did well. But I got to say, some of the bigger cities, Des Moines, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, they're not for Biden. So it looks like, well, dare I say, it looks like Biden's flopping hard, and it makes sense. Come on, man, the dude wasn't really running, and we all know it. He was telling people not to vote for him. What's the point of running if someone's going to come up to you, ask you a question, and you go, oh, you should go vote for Trump then? They're going to, what? Oh, okay, congratulations. Joe Biden probably drove voters to Donald Trump by doing things like that. You combine that with the far left push and the panic in the Democratic establishment, and the people, the never burners, how would you call it? They're saying that they're going to vote for Trump or not vote at all. I can't predict a future in good conscience where I'm thinking Trump loses this one. I'll tell you what, if you decided to go to Vegas and make a bet against the president, even though it was $1 and you could win 100, you'd be nuts. You're just going to lose $1. You want to give $1 away, just give it to a person who needs it to buy some food. So I do want to, so here's what I'm going to do next. I want to show you how absurd and insane the caucus process is. But then I want to show you the data that is just so good for Donald Trump. So good. Check this out. This is a YouTube video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It just says, coin toss breaks precinct tie. That to me is absolutely nuts. But it's not the first time we've seen this. They do this. Think about that. Do you think you're looking at a democratic process with the caucuses and the primaries? You're not. People show up and they say, who should I support in the caucus? Who needs a delegate? Flip a coin for it. That's your political process. Now, I think the founding fathers made an excellent system, and many warned about political parties. And the Democrats, they're not a government institution. Okay, they're a private organization, and they do insane things like this. And then we got to vote for one of them. But it gets better. Here's this tweet that I think is just so great. Megha Kinnard is, I believe she's with AP, tweets, quote, I'm kind of swinging between Amy and Bernie, a caucus goer told AP. Ultimately, though, he was convinced to join with Buttigieg. Quote, I was sitting over by the Amy people, but no one talked to me. A Pete woman came over, so I said, well, okay, I'll go with Pete. And then he added, I just want to beat Trump. That was the criteria for who was going to get his vote. Literally someone walking up to him and just saying hello. What do you say? She came over. And in fact, he doesn't even say she said anything, just walked over to him. And he was like, all right, think about that. He was thinking about Bernie Sanders, who's far left, and Pete, who's a moderate. And he went to the moderate simply because someone walked up to him and said, hey, wow, that is a strong democratic process. Well, As many people may not be aware that Donald Trump actually did caucus, and I believe he was actually campaigning in Iowa. Well, he won in some districts with 100% backing the president. Now, that seems obvious, right? Everybody knew Trump's approval in the Republican Party was ridiculously high. But I think I might have this video. I do right here, which shows just how much better it may actually have been. Check this out. Alex Plitzis tweeted, former Rep. Joe Walsh, who is running, concludes by saying that if people want 4 more years of real Donald Trump show, he is then cut off by the crowd who yell yes and applaud loudly. The dude tried to make his case, and he was like, if you want 4 more years of Trump, and then everyone just goes, yeah, starts clapping and cheering. Trump sweeps through Iowa. The caucus, the Republican caucus is very different. So these are private practices, not governmental. Trump wins. It's not a big deal because we all knew Trump was going to win. Now, think about everything I told you in the beginning. I did highlight Moody's analytics. We have this story. This is back in October 15th. We can now take a look at the early data we have from Iowa and make a better prediction based on past analytics. CNBC reports Trump is on his way to an easy win in 2020, according to Moody's accurate election model. You see, Moody's election model is, I believe it's economic, and it's historically accurate. I think the only time they've been wrong is 2016 with Donald Trump. Now, I could be wrong about that, but they are extremely, extremely accurate. And this is what needs to be brought back up. You see this right here? Trump cruises if turnout is low. How states will vote if non-incumbent turnout is historical minimum. Chart 7, it comes down to turnout. With a maximum turnout, the Democrats barely win with, I believe, just around like 271 electoral votes. With average turnout, Trump easily wins with over 300. With minimum turnout, Trump almost breaks 400 electoral votes. It's preliminary. We're looking at early Iowa data. We don't know for sure. But look at the first story I showed you from McClatchy, where they say, we're expecting record voter turnout. It's going to be bigger than 2008. And then actually, it's kind of like 2016. And then we look at the story from 2016. This is terrible voter turnout. It's just good news for Trump. But it's not just good news for Trump. It's also really good news for the Republican Party. The Gallup, famed polling institution, says Trump job approval at personal best 49%. Now, of course, you've seen Rasmussen saying, 51 here and there. The aggregate, was the highest ever been in the past week. Right now, it's floating around the highest place, so it's definitely above average for Trump in his presidency. But based on Gallup's own data, it looks like he's doing way better than Obama did around the same time. So let's actually read a little bit of this. They say, the new poll finds 50% of Americans disapproving of Trump, leaving just 1% expressing no opinion. The average percentage not having an opinion on Trump has been 5% throughout his presidency. Trump's approval rating has risen because of higher ratings among both Republicans and independents. His 94% approval rating among Republicans is up 6 percentage points from early January, and is 3 points higher than his previous best among his fellow partisans. The 42% approval rating among independents is up 5 points and ties 3 other polls as his best among that group. Democratic approval is 7%, down slightly from 10%, which I find pretty strange. They say they're going to talk about specific reasons as to, why, this may be happening, but we'll move on because what I want to get to here is actually talk about the Democratic and Republican Party. They say as Trump's job approval rating has improved, so has the image of the Republican Party. Now, 51% of Americans view the Republican Party favorably, up from 43% in September. It is the first time GOP favorability has exceeded 50% since 2005. Full stop. I don't like using individual polls, but we're talking about Gallup looking at Gallup data. So this is relative to their own metrics. The fair thing to say is not to focus on Republicans being over 51%, but to say, based on Gallup standards, Republicans today are doing better than they've done since 2005. I think I have an explanation. I think it's impeachment. I think you look at September before impeachment, and the Republican Party was at 43. You look at how the Republicans were treated in the House and how they handled impeachment in the Senate so far, and all of a sudden their favorability jumps 8 points. Stands to reason many people in this country think similarly to me, that the Democrats were pushing a partisan impeachment. Jeff Van Drew quit the party and he made the right move, and Gallup just proved it. If they tried to launch this impeachment and actually lost support from their own party, you'd think they would have gotten the message it was a bad idea. They carried on. They went forward with a Senate trial, and it seems it was an unmitigated disaster as well. Tomorrow, we are likely going to see the president acquitted of all wrongdoing, and they're outraged. But the American people, for the most part, are not. Now, many are, don't get me wrong, but most seem to be actually warming to the Republicans and the president, while the Democrats their caucus is in shambles. They're accusing each other of being cheaters and spies. It is nuts. They're calling each other conspiracy theorists, and some establishment Democrats are claiming the people cheering for Bernie and smearing Buttigieg are Russians. That's how insane they've gone. So what ends up happening, in my opinion, is that the sane moderates and sane liberals, center left, are walking over to the Republican room because the left room is full of screeching and insanity. And the best case, like the best example, is Jeff Van Drew. Just in case you don't know, he's a congressman from Jersey, South Jersey. He's a Democrat his whole life. And because of impeachment, he switched parties. Many people said he did it just because he wanted to win reelection. Sure. And he made the right move. Y'all are going crazy. The Republicans are doing better than ever. So let's take a look at this. I want to show you the aggregate because I always think it's fair to point out the aggregate polling for Donald Trump or anybody. Everybody always likes to tout a single individual poll. Look, Trump's worse than he's ever been. He's better. Well, okay. I think it's fair to point out relative, to Gallup's internal data, Trump is doing well. And so are the Republicans in the aggregate, because it does go back, to a couple weeks ago. We can see Trump not the best position he's ever been. That was since his reelection. It was, I believe, the 27th was his high. And now he's at 44.9, which is much higher than average for the bulk of his presidency. So he is doing really, really, really well. There's other good news, because not only is his approval rating up, not only is Democratic voter turnout down, but in the impeachment trial, it looks like the moderate Republicans are absolutely siding with Trump. And the worst Trump is getting from some, like Joe Manchin, is that Trump should not be removed, but should be censured. That means there are going to be Democratic senators who actually vote to acquit Trump. I mean, he's taken it. He's won. That's it. Look, I mean, I know it's early. It's only February, and we're waiting until November. There's a lot that can happen. The data from Iowa is very preliminary. Please take it all with a grain of salt. It's going to be really funny when 2 hours after I publish this video, the data completely flips and all of a sudden it's like, aha, the Democrats are winning. Yeah, maybe. It's entirely possible. One of the things that happened in 2018 was that I said, I don't think the blue wave is going to happen, and I predicted Republicans would do well. And the initial reporting said basically that. So I made a presumption based on early data, and slowly we learned the blue wave actually kind of did happen, and they ended up taking the House and then impeaching the president because of it. So I'll leave it there with that final warning. It very well may be that everything I've said and all of the exuberance and arrogance I've spouted about the failures of the Democrats turns out to be completely wrong when the real data comes in and they say, wow, we did better than ever. But who knows? There's a lot of conspiracies floating around about what the Democrats are actually doing with this strange data mishap and the weird Shadow Incorporated app that was made. But I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to let you know what I think based off the current preliminary data. Take it all with a grain of salt. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you all there.